Have you ever wondered why 85% of women don't feel aroused right away? Why they need something deeper before true desire awakens? Most men think it's about physical attraction alone. But here's the truth. Female arousal is far more complex. It's not just about what she sees. It's about what she feels in the presence of a man. And if you don't understand this, you'll keep misreading signals, wasting energy, and wondering why things never go the way you expect. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and stay with me until the very end. Because what I'm about to share is not just another set of dating tips. These are insights rooted in Stoic philosophy, especially from Marcus Aurelius, that can completely transform how women perceive you. And trust me, once you understand this, your love life will never be the same again. Now let's set the stage. Most men rush. They meet a woman. They want instant results, instant validation, instant intimacy. But women are wired differently. For them, arousal is often delayed, sparked not by immediate appearance, but by a man's presence, his energy, and his ability to embody certain traits. Psychology confirms this, and Marcus Aurelius, nearly 2,000 years ago, outlined principles that align perfectly with what modern women secretly respond to. So let's break down 10 Marcus Aurelius suggestions that explain why 85% of women don't feel aroused until this happens. 1. Control yourself before you try to control her. Have you ever been in love so deeply that you felt like you were losing control of yourself? Think back for a moment. That first time you saw her smile, the way her laughter filled the room, how your heart raced just being around her. Do you remember that? That rush where all you wanted was to hold on to her, to make her yours? Now let me ask a harder question. Did you ever feel like you wanted her so much that it scared you? That your emotions started to take over? You texted too quickly? You called too often? You thought about her every second of the day? Every man has been there. But here's the painful truth. Women don't feel aroused by a man who is consumed by his desire for them. In fact, the more you lose control, the less she feels that spark. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." And this is exactly where most men go wrong. They think attraction is about controlling her, about saying the right words, making the right moves, or trying to convince her. But that's not what unlocks her desire. What really makes her lean in, what really stirs her arousal, is when she sees you control yourself. Imagine this. 2 men are in love with the same woman. The first one floods her phone with messages, waits online for her reply, and gets jealous if she doesn't respond quickly. The second one, he cares for her, yes, but he doesn't let his emotions rule him. If she takes her time to respond, he stays calm. If she pulls back, he doesn't chase. He knows who he is with or without her. Which man do you think she feels drawn to? Which one do you think awakens her desire? It's always the second one, because self-control is strength, and strength is the deepest aphrodisiac. So ask yourself right now, in your own love story, are you the man who clings, or the man who stands tall and is calm? Because here's the paradox. When you stop trying to control her, and instead master yourself, that's when her attraction awakens. 2. Desire should be tempered with discipline. Have you ever wanted someone so badly that you forgot yourself in the process? Think about that time. You saw her, you felt an instant pull. Everything about her, her eyes, her presence, her voice kept echoing in your mind. You couldn't stop thinking, I need her. I have to make her mine. And in that whirlwind, maybe you texted her too much. Maybe you dropped your own priorities just to spend time with her. Maybe you even compromised your values, all in the name of desire. But here's the paradox. The very thing you thought would draw her closer actually pushed her away. Marcus Aurelius once said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. He was talking about virtue, but this wisdom applies perfectly to love and attraction. Because raw desire without discipline can destroy respect. Women are not aroused by desperation. They're aroused by mastery. And mastery begins with discipline. Imagine 2 men again. The first one lets his desire rule him. He cancels his plans the moment she calls. He spends money he doesn't have just to impress her. He says yes to everything she asks, even when it costs him his dignity. On the surface, it looks like devotion, but to her it feels like weakness. The second man? He feels desire, of course. He's not made of stone, but he knows how to hold it. He doesn't drop his purpose. He doesn't neglect his responsibilities. He doesn't try to buy her affection with gifts or sacrifice his respect for temporary approval. His desire is strong, but his discipline is stronger. Now ask yourself, who do you think she feels true attraction for? Always the man who can master his own impulses. Because a disciplined man is rare. He sends a signal without even speaking. I want you, but I don't need you. My life has meaning with or without you. And here's the secret. That is when her body begins to respond. That's when her curiosity, her attraction, her arousal awakens. So let me ask you directly. Are you being controlled by your desire? Or are you controlling it? Because the moment you temper desire with discipline, you stop being one of many and start being unforgettable. 3. Emotional stability is the real aphrodisiac. Have you ever been in a situation where your emotions betrayed you in front of the woman you loved? Maybe she didn't text you back for hours, and suddenly your mind was spinning with 1,000 thoughts. Is she ignoring me? Did I do something wrong? Is she with someone else? That little silence from her felt like thunder inside your chest, and before you knew it, you were overreacting, sending multiple texts trying to get answers, or showing frustration. Be honest, have you ever been there? Every man has. But here's the truth. Nothing kills attraction faster than emotional instability. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Women don't always consciously realize this, but deep down, they feel it. A man who cannot control his emotions cannot be trusted with her heart. And without trust, arousal never comes. Think of two men again. The first man panics when she pulls away. His entire mood depends on her attention. If she's affectionate, he's happy. If she's distant, he falls apart. His emotions swing like a storm, and she feels unsafe in that chaos. The second man? He notices her silence too. He feels it, of course, he's human, but he doesn't let it shake him. He doesn't bombard her with questions or spiral into insecurity. He remains calm, grounded, steady. His mood is not dependent on her response, it's rooted in himself. Now tell me, who do you think she feels drawn to? Always the calm man, because emotional stability is the real aphrodisiac. It's what makes her relax, let her guard down, and allow desire to awaken. She feels, if life storms around me, this man won't collapse. He's my safe place. Think about your own love story. Were there times you let emotions take control and it pushed her away? And can you remember the moments you stayed calm and steady and she leaned in closer, almost without realizing it? That's the secret. Arousal doesn't start in her body. It starts in her mind, when she feels safe in your presence. So remember this. If you can master your emotions, she will naturally feel hers rising. Stability is strength, and strength is desire. 4. Respect yourself first. Have you ever loved someone so much that you lowered your own standards just to keep them? Think about it. Maybe you let her cancel on you over and over and you still waited. Maybe she spoke to you in a way that made you feel small, but you brushed it off because you didn't want to lose her. Maybe you gave and gave while receiving almost nothing in return. And in those moments, deep down, didn't a part of you feel like you were betraying yourself? Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." And here's the truth most men don't realize. Women don't truly feel aroused by a man who doesn't respect himself. You can shower her with compliments, gifts, and attention. But if you don't stand for your own dignity, she can't feel that deep attraction for you. Think of two men again. The first one says, "I'll do whatever it takes to make you happy." Sounds romantic, right? But over time, it begins to feel weak. He tolerates disrespect, he has no boundaries, and his love feels cheap because he's given it away without standards. The second man says through his actions, "I value you, but I value myself too." If she cancels plans repeatedly, he doesn't lash out, but he also doesn't chase. If she crosses a line, he addresses it calmly and clearly. He doesn't beg for her love. He makes her earn his respect, just as much as he earns hers. Which man do you think awakens her arousal? Always the second. Because women feel attraction not just for kindness, but for strength. And self-respect is the purest form of strength. Now ask yourself about your own love story. Were there times you gave too much, lowered your standards, and felt invisible in the process? Did you ever feel her pulling away the more you disrespected yourself? Here's the paradox. The moment you begin respecting yourself, she begins to respect you. And once respect is there, attraction follows. Because at the core of female desire is this truth. A woman cannot truly value A man who doesn't first value himself. Respect yourself first and she will feel something far deeper than attraction. She will feel reverence. 5. Silence can be more powerful than words. Have you ever tried so hard to explain yourself to a woman? You love that you ended up saying too much? Think back. Maybe she pulled away, and you rushed to send long messages explaining how much you cared. Maybe she seemed upset and you poured out every word, trying to fix things. Maybe you confessed your feelings too soon, hoping words would unlock her heart. But what happened? The more you spoke, the less she seemed moved. Sometimes she even grew colder, and you were left wondering, why didn't my words work? Marcus Aurelius once said, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. And nothing shows this more than the way men use words in love. Here's the truth. Women aren't aroused by endless explanations. They're not drawn to a man who tries to convince them with speeches. What moves them is something deeper. Your presence, your energy, your silence. Imagine two men. The first one floods her with words. He tries to explain his worth, his feelings, his intentions. Every silence from her feels unbearable, so he fills it with noise. The second man? He knows when to speak, but more importantly, he knows when not to. If she withdraws, he doesn't chase with a storm of words. He stays calm. His silence says, I don't need to beg. My value speaks for itself. Which man do you think sparks her arousal? Always the second. Because silence is confidence. Silence is strength. Silence creates mystery, and mystery fuels desire. Think about your own story. Were there times you talked too much? Over-explained or tried to win her with words? Did it ever feel like the harder you tried, the less she responded? Now remember the moments you said little, but your calm presence made her lean in. That's no accident. Women crave the stability of a man who isn't afraid of silence. It makes them curious. It makes them chase. So here's the paradox. The less you try to prove yourself with words, the more she feels your value. Because in love, silence isn't emptiness, it's power. And often it says more than words ever could. 6. Purpose is the spark. Have you ever felt like you gave a woman your everything, yet it still wasn't enough? You took her out, you gave her your time, maybe even your money. You made her feel special, and yet somehow she drifted away. You were left wondering, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? The answer is hidden in something Marcus Aurelius wrote. A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions. Here's the truth most men miss. Women aren't aroused just by what you give to them. They're aroused by what you're building beyond them. Think about it. Two men are in love with the same woman. The first man has no real direction in life. His world revolves around her. His happiness depends on her texts. His mood depends on her attention, and his future depends on whether she stays. At first she might enjoy the devotion, but over time it feels heavy. His life is empty without her, and that emptiness suffocates desire. The second man? He loves her too, but he has a mission that exists with or without her. He wakes up with purpose, works toward his goals, and carries himself like a man with vision. When she spends time with him, she feels it, that energy, that forward motion. It's magnetic. She realizes, this man's life is going somewhere, and I want to be part of it. Now think about your own love story. Have you ever made her your only purpose? Did you ever feel her slipping away the more you tried to orbit your world around her? And can you remember a time when you were so focused on your passion, your work, your growth, that she leaned in closer without you even trying? That's not coincidence. That's female psychology. Because women don't fall for men who chase them like a prize. They fall for men who chase something bigger and allow her to join the journey. Purpose is the spark. Without it, desire fades. With it, you become unforgettable. So let me ask you, are you living for her? Or are you living for something greater? Because when you walk in purpose, she doesn't just see a man, she feels a force. And that force is what truly awakens her arousal. 7. Confidence without arrogance. Have you ever met a man who walked into a room and instantly commanded attention without saying a word? And on the other hand, have you also met the type who tries to look confident, bragging about his money, showing off his possessions, talking loudly so everyone notices? Which one felt more magnetic to you? Now think about this in your own love story. Maybe there was a time you thought you had to impress her by proving yourself, telling her about your successes, exaggerating your achievements, or showing off in front of her friends. And yet the more you tried, the less she seemed interested. Why? Because women can tell the difference between true confidence and empty arrogance. Marcus Aurelius once said, The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In other words, real strength doesn't compete. It doesn't boast, it doesn't try to dominate. It simply is. Women are not aroused by arrogance. They're aroused by the quiet steadiness of a man who knows who he is, with or without validation. Imagine two men again. The first walks into a room and instantly begins talking about himself, his job, his car, his connections. He wants to be seen as confident, but beneath the surface it feels insecure. The second man walks in calmly. He doesn't need to be the center of attention. He listens more than he speaks. When he does talk, he chooses his words carefully. His posture, his presence, his energy, it all communicates that he is at peace with himself. Which man do you think she feels more drawn to? Always the second. Because confidence without arrogance feels safe, powerful, and rare. It tells her this man has nothing to prove. He is enough. And that more than anything sparks her desire. Now reflect on your own story. Did you ever push too hard to prove your worth? Did you notice how she pulled away when you tried to impress? And can you remember the times when you simply stood calm in who you are, and she leaned closer? Curious, almost captivated? That's the paradox. True confidence whispers while arrogance screams, and women are always more aroused by the whisper. 8. The strength to walk away. Have you ever stayed in a relationship longer than you should have, just because you were afraid of losing her? Think back. Maybe she stopped respecting you. Maybe the love didn't feel the same anymore. Maybe she pushed your boundaries again and again, but you stayed because the thought of walking away felt unbearable. You told yourself, if I just hold on, maybe things will change. Be honest, have you ever lived that story? Marcus Aurelius once said, if something does not benefit the whole, it is not worthy of your energy. He wasn't just speaking about politics or war, he was speaking about life itself. And this applies perfectly to love. Here's the truth. Women feel the deepest attraction not for the man who clings, but for the man who can walk away. Not because he doesn't care, but because he respects himself too much to beg for scraps of love. Picture two men. The first one will tolerate anything. Disrespect, lies, neglect, he'll swallow it all just to keep her around. At first she might enjoy the control, but slowly she begins to lose respect for him. And when respect dies, attraction dies with it. The second man loves her deeply, but he values his dignity more. If she crosses the line too many times, he doesn't explode. He doesn't beg, he simply steps back. His silence, his ability to leave with grace, says louder than words, I am not afraid to lose you because I will never lose myself. Which man do you think she feels true desire for? Always the second, because strength is arousing, and nothing shows strength more than the courage to walk away. Now reflect on your own love story. Were there times you stayed when you should have left and felt her attraction fade? And can you remember moments when you held firm to your dignity, and suddenly she treated you with more respect? Maybe even more passion? That's no accident. Women test men, sometimes without even knowing it. And when you show her that your self-worth is greater than your fear of losing her, she feels a powerful shift inside. Because deep down, every woman desires a man who doesn't just love her, but also loves himself enough to walk away when love turns into chains. 9. Consistency creates trust when trust creates arousal. Have you ever thought about why some men can completely capture a woman's attention, while others, even with good looks, money, or charm, fail to keep her interested? Here's the truth. Attraction isn't built in a single moment. It grows through consistency. And Marcus Aurelius, though he lived almost 2,000 years ago, understood this principle better than most men today. He once wrote, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Simple but powerful. What he was really pointing to was the importance of reliability, being a man whose words and actions align. Because here's the secret. Women are not just aroused by passion in the heat of the moment. They're deeply aroused by trust, and trust only comes from consistency. Let me ask you this. Think back to your own love story. Maybe your first relationship or even the one you're in now. Do you remember how much it meant when your partner showed up for you? Again and again in small ways. Maybe it was as simple as keeping a promise, calling when they said they would, or remembering something you thought they had forgotten. Didn't it make you feel safe, seen, even desired? That same principle applies in a woman's psychology. If your words change with the wind, if you're stable today but chaotic tomorrow, she may find you exciting for a while but not deeply arousing. True arousal, the kind that makes her lean into you with trust and surrender, comes when she feels certain you are steady. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He didn't just talk about virtue, he lived it. And women, whether consciously or unconsciously, are drawn to that kind of man. A man whose actions are predictable in the best way. A man she knows won't disappear when life gets hard. So if you want to build attraction that lasts, remember this. Be consistent in your energy, your values, and your intentions. Because when she feels she can trust you fully, her guard drops. And only then can true arousal begin. 10. Live for virtue, not validation. Be honest with yourself here. When was the last time you did something just because it was the right thing to do? Not because you wanted someone to notice? Maybe you opened a door for someone. Maybe you worked late to finish something properly, even though nobody would praise you for it. Or maybe you stayed loyal when temptation whispered otherwise. Now think about this. How often do we, as men, live for the validation of others, especially women, instead of living for our own sense of virtue? Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." And that's exactly the lesson here. Women aren't truly aroused by the man who bends his entire life chasing approval. They are drawn deeply and uncontrollably to the man who lives with virtue, who does what's right, even when no one's watching. Imagine this, you're in love and you're out on a date. Every move you make is designed to impress her. Buying the most expensive dinner, dressing a certain way, talking in ways you think she'll approve. She smiles, but something feels off. She senses it. Why? Because your energy is screaming, "Please validate me," and nothing kills attraction faster than desperation for approval. Now compare that to another man, the man who lives for his own principles. He's kind because it's in his nature, not because it'll get him points. He's disciplined because he values his health and mind, not because he wants applause. He's honest because lying would corrupt his character, not because honesty guarantees affection. That kind of man, the Stoic man, doesn't chase validation, but paradoxically, he receives it everywhere he goes. Because virtue, my friend, has a magnetic pull. Women see it, feel it, and respond to it without even realizing why. So here's the reflection I want you to sit with. Are you living to impress, or are you living to express your true values? Because when you shift from validation to virtue, you don't just win her attention, you win her respect, her loyalty, and her deepest desire, wrapping the story together. So why don't 85% of women feel aroused instantly? Because arousal isn't about instant physical reaction. It's about what kind of man you are. It's about whether you control yourself, whether you have discipline, emotional stability, respect, purpose, and the strength to walk away. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about dating, but his wisdom transcends time. He knew that the strongest man isn't the one who conquers women, but the one who conquers himself. And ironically, that very conquest is what awakens desire in women. So the next time you wonder why she's not instantly attracted, remember this. Women awaken when they sense virtue, not vanity, when they sense power, not neediness, and when they realize you're a man aligned with timeless Stoic strength. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.